Welcome to the Golden Seams podcast. I'm Gabe, and along with my co-host Michae, we're thrilled to have you join us on this transformative journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Our podcast is all about helping you uncover your authentic self, find your true calling, and create prosperity in alignment with your deepest values and aspirations.
We're going further into the theme of boundaries, a crucial aspect of living authentically and pursuing your true path. Exploring Melissa Urban's insightful book, The Book of Boundaries, Set the Limits That Will Set You Free. We're going to be talking about Chapter 3, The Real Work-Life Balance, Setting Boundaries in the Workplace. Melissa says, we tend to assume our boss's expectations, workplace culture, or job demands all supersede our personal need for and right to healthy boundaries. But those assumptions are wrong. Your company is not likely to proactively establish healthy boundaries for you. The truth is, if left unchecked, your company, managers, coworkers, and clients will hungrily absorb all of your time, energy, space, and attention. The trouble is, work boundaries are extra hard because of power dynamics, company culture, and the cold, hard truth of workplace consequences. Today, Gabe and I are going to be discussing setting boundaries in the workplace with you, Melissa's rule that people will take as much as you will give, and that boundaries are often overlooked, especially at work. We'll be talking about power dynamics, red flags, why a company that considers its employees as family is considered a major red flag by the Harvard Business Review and should be in your arsenal as the F word. We're going to talk about workplace boundary categories according to Melissa. Work time, personal time, ethical dilemmas, recognizing pushback and being seen as rocking the boat and how to handle that. We'll be talking about a strategy before setting workplace boundaries that Melissa outlines, gaining support, real truths, as well as Melissa's scripts, and what I call the pivot as a boundary and how Melissa handles and implements this. Setting boundaries with yourself around work and home when they can often bleed into each other.
Melissa starts off telling a story of her sister Kelly on vacation. While paddleboarding, her boss gets a hold of her by contacting somebody else, and this really sets her off. She goes on to describe how boundaries at work have been trending topic since 2020 when COVID forced a lot of these things together. Struggling with how to figure out how to create the space she needed to enjoy her vacation and replenish her energy so she can be more productive at work, Kelly had to figure out how to set boundaries. Melissa goes on to describe how people will take as much as we will give.
This is such a fantastic point, and it's so true. Melissa says further, it's not your job to guess my boundaries. It's up to me to set and hold them. But a critical point is that boundaries are often overlooked, especially at work. And there's a lot of dynamics here.
Oh yeah, at a workplace it often feels like a personal choice what we have to participate in.
Eat or don't eat.
Yeah, and you have to be really considerate if you're willing to risk that when setting your boundaries. You better than anybody know your boss.
Melissa goes into the power dynamics. Anytime you have a power dynamic, she says, whether it's a parent or a child, a teacher or a student, boss or an employee, it makes setting and holding your boundaries exponentially more difficult. I could not agree with that more. She says, while these power dynamics don't give anyone the authority to take advantage of you, the line gets blurry when the person on the receiving end of your boundary outranks you and you really need the job. It's not just the hierarchical structure that plays into office power dynamics. What if you need to set the boundary with your boss's golf buddy, who happens to be your coworker, or the colleague who your boss is not so secretly sleeping with? Even if you do not report directly to these people, even if they have less experience or tenure than you, if the boss just likes them better, you need to tread cautiously. I think this is extremely important that she recognizes this, because setting boundaries in a difficult power dynamic is really a challenge.
Yeah, I've noticed that people have a tendency to be retaliatory or vindictive if anybody questions authority. This kind of goes back to the last episode when we were talking about unhealthy workplace dynamics in a simpler setting. When it comes to changing company structure, there could be quite a bit of backlash and locking horns.
Yes, she even goes further and says compounding these power dynamics is the reality that the system of oppression pervasive in our society, sexism, racism, homophobia, ableism, for example, are also present in the workplace. It is so complex navigating the politics politics of any business situation.
Yeah.
Now, if you're one of these people that's out there and you are in a wonderful work situation, hang on to that.
Right.
However, the vast majority of my clients and people that I work with have very challenging and demanding bosses, schedules, deadlines, projects, productivity schedules. It goes on and on and on. Melissa says when she's worked with people and helped them with their boundaries, in this, she implements the green, yellow, red principle here. I want to share this story about a woman named Victoria, and this is from Melissa. I recently heard from a Black woman named Victoria who was working for a tech company and found herself navigating what she called the bro culture of her workplace. Victoria struggled to meet gender-based expectations as she climbed the ranks from customer service to product manager. She felt like she had to laugh at the sexist jokes, take notes in meetings, and play down her accomplishments. Even when she crushed a goal, when she tried to set healthy boundaries, she was often labeled angry or aggressive, both common stereotypes of Black women in our country. Victoria told me what was worse was I began to internalize the misogynoir of my workplace. I discouraged my female teammates from calling out bad behavior, speaking too directly, or setting healthy boundaries around their time, while the male coders could be as offensive, brash, or demanding as they wanted, and no one blinked an eye. After learning more about boundaries, using some of Melissa's scripts, and asking her coworkers hard questions like, "But is it aggressive to ask that you not talk over me in meetings?" Victoria said her work environment improved. Colleagues began respecting her opinions and even joking with her. They'd say things like, "Let's ask Victoria. You know she'll give it to us straight." She goes on to say that Victoria feels better. She was modeling good boundaries for her team, and she felt more confident at work. I found that to be a very impressive story, although I have to be honest, I really had a lot of pushback internally when reading this chapter.
Yeah, I did too.
It was very challenging for me having a background in corporate America, but also having had worked internationally. And I have to say, the higher you go up the ladder, the more rules there really are.
Yeah.
The stronger the culture is. You can get away with a lot more further down that corporate ladder. Up at the top, those expectations, those deadlines, it's sort of an understanding. We're paying you a great deal of money, and these are the things we expect. You don't come in here and tell us how to set the rules. We've hired you based on a skill set, talents, abilities, knowledge, etc., your performance that we're aware of, whatever that is, okay?
Right.
So this idea of changing a corporate culture, to me, that's more like shifting the Titanic.
Yeah, at a certain level, if you're going to make changes, it's going to ripple down through everybody below that level. Whatever manager or executive is you're arguing with is in charge of groups and lots of people. So one ripple and change in the rhythm up here actually affects everybody below as well.
That's
so
true.
The implications of the changes are huge.
But in my experience, major corporations and companies only make changes when there's big consequences.
Right.
This idea of an individual, and I'm not saying they don't try. I think they do a lot of work, especially HR, and they bring in a lot of experts and outside help and agents. I'm seeing places where what Melissa is suggesting here and talking about, there are pieces that I could see could be implemented, but I've sat on both sides of this. And I'm telling you, it's a pretty complicated thing to navigate. I want to talk about what I feel she really brings to the table here that is incredibly beneficial. I also want to reflect on, I genuinely appreciate her definition and acknowledgement of the power dynamics in the workplace. Instead of just jumping in and assuming that it's easy to make boundaries here, she very skillfully acknowledges, and in my opinion, a very honest way, this difficult dynamic.
This next part too, where she outlines the red flags to look for to kind of gauge where you're at and what might or might not work.
She talks about observing the company culture and that's going to help you gauge what you're up against. I think that is a brilliant, brilliant first move.
Yeah.
She says, to help gauge what you're up against, look at the way management models various behaviors around time off, sick time, after hours emails, and integrity. If the exec's team is still slacking and emailing from their Mexican villas or while out sick with the flu, it's going to be much harder for you to set a boundary around your time off. That kind of culture comes from the top down, and even though your company might say it values employees' work-life balance, the actions of those in charge speak louder than their words. I could not agree with that more. I think that is your brilliant first move in navigating boundaries at work. She talks further, and I think that this is a huge point, why a company that considers its employees as family is considered a major red flag by the Harvard Business Review. She puts this as a side note.
Melissa goes on to say, one question you can ask around workplace culture, which speaks to how they might handle boundaries, is, does the company consider their employees family? Why or why not? While it may sound promising to hear, we treat people like family, the Harvard Business Review considers it a major red flag. When a business uses the family metaphor, it creates an even more unbalanced power dynamic, where your boss isn't just your boss, they're also your parent, demanding loyalty, respect, and obedience instead of teamwork, trust, and fair exchange of value. Employees often feel obliged to protect the family at any cost, including working unreasonable hours, behaving unethically, and not reporting their brothers and sisters for wrongdoing. The family narrative leaves employees feeling disempowered, burned out, and incapable of setting healthy boundaries. A no answer to this question isn't a guarantee of a healthy workplace culture, but an employer should be able to demonstrate a culture of respect, camaraderie, and teamwork without using the F word. She basically described a mafia there.
I have worked at companies where they call it family. It is exactly that. Not worth it.
Something I've observed in family and relationship dynamics, this idea that love grants access, full access to a person, and is the key that unlocks anytime 24/7 access of any nature. And it's like the guilt trip used to justify.
Yeah.
And that seems like a dangerous combination.
My head is so flooded with things right now. Upon reading that, discussing it, even reading it the first time, all I can say is 1,000% times a million, I agree with the Harvard Business Review. People's definition of family is different. Let's start there, okay?
Right.
Then let's add in, how many people come from a family that's not dysfunctional? Really? I mean, really? So while that sounds really cozy and nice and we're all welcome and we all welcome each other, have you ever tried distancing yourself from your family? Yeah. All right. Do you need that at work?
No.
So I think that this is very easy to explain when you think it through, but it's one of those subtleties that I have overlooked myself.
Yes. In moments where I've needed community support or to feel welcome when other stuff's going on in life too, it's easy for that narrative to kind of sneak in and me to open up and allow it.
I've worked for several families. The best family that I ever worked for was a family company. It was a German family. My favorite bosses, everything. They had so much respect, so much awareness. Everybody had their role. Everybody did their part. There was no crossing of lines. When it came time to shut the doors down at the end of the day, every single thing, they were extremely smart people. That was the exception. Loved working for them. Beyond that, when you hear the word family, just throw it into that category that is the F word.
I'm sure it's possible, but probably not common. The successful deployment of that kind of energy, right?
Well,
Requires
think
a lot
of how challenging it is just to try to stop yourself when you're working from home.
Right.
And create boundaries and you're in your own home. It's one of those words that a lot of people have different definitions for. Everybody has a different definition of family.
Yeah.
I think.
It's a great point. It becomes such an abstract, that situation at the job interview.
It does. As you know, we're doing boundaries in a very different way. We'd like to thank all of our listeners, subscribers, followers, and especially our wonderful Patreon members for your support, sharing this community and this path quoting us, tagging us, and whatever kind acts you do with your friends, family, colleagues, and those who, well, just get it. Your gentle but powerful acts of support, no matter how small, tell us and the world this resonates. So we thank you, wholly and fully from our hearts, for being the catalyst wherever you are, because it only takes one step forward to begin to step into your magnificence. I'm thrilled to announce that we're offering exclusive content on our Patreon, The Golden Seams. We want to take a moment to explain what we're doing to support and benefit you on your path. Our Golden Alchemist level members all receive a specially crafted 15 to 20 minute deep meditation focused on creating and maintaining clear, kind boundaries, our theme right now. This meditation, when practiced daily for 21 to 30 days, can help you naturally integrate healthy boundaries in your relationships with yourself and energetically, fully helping you incorporate positive boundaries into your life, paving the way for authentic living and personal growth.
This also includes a powerful 1-hour Boundaries Subliminal audio, which serves as the backdrop for the deep meditation, designed to help release difficulties in creating clear, kind boundaries while simultaneously assisting you in establishing and maintaining them. They incorporate Solfeggio frequencies and binaural beats for maximum effectiveness. Michae, guided by her higher senses, creates these transformative tools previously reserved for her private client.
We're going to continue on. Melissa starts talking about office culture here. She gives an outline of office culture areas to pay attention to.
Are you, your coworkers, or your managers regularly expected to work extra hours, nights, or weekends, with or without pay? Are other people regularly sending or replying to work emails or texts at night, on the weekends, or during sick days or vacations? Do meetings regularly run long or start late while awaiting the arrival of the CEO or department manager? Are you and others always running at or over capacity with your workload, goals, and deadlines? Do coworkers or managers overshare personal details, touch without consent, ask personal questions, or otherwise overstep the line of professionalism? Does the team or office culture overlook or tolerate sexual harassment, off-color jokes, homophobia, racism, sexism, or any other ism in the workplace? Are you or coworkers regularly othered at work for healthy boundaries, like leaving on time or not drinking at business lunches? Are you or your department often asked to tell white lies to clients or customers, fake or massage the data, otherwise compromising your integrity? Do clients often cancel last minute, change the scope or timeline of projects, or expect you or your team to work extra hours for free?
Great list of things to observe. To start off with, observe the company culture, but keep this in mind. A great way to know a good company culture is you got a friend or somebody else on the inside. They're going to tell you the truth about what it's like. Think of it like dating. Carolyn Mays, she's a famous medical intuitive. She actually talks about we all have 12 different archetypes that we're carrying with us. When you're first meeting somebody, you may only see maximum, I think it's up to 3. 1 or 2. We all know the best archetype to put forward, the one that people like, the one that's easiest to get along with. It takes a long time to see all of a person's different archetypes that they're carrying. I think companies have archetypes too. That's the company culture. So you're going to see the best. You're going to see that on any news situation. This list that she has given starts to give you an idea. Obviously, the best information is going there, knowing someone on the inside, but also really doing your research. Is this a company that is truly valuing the principles, the morals, the values that you have? A lot of companies sort of go with the times. Where 1 minute it's completely positive to support LGBTQ, and then when the political narrative shifts, they withdraw from that. They start toning it down right away. No, don't wear your LGBTQ shirt to work. Do you see what I'm saying? Whatever it is, this is truth. We're talking truth here. Truth is where everything begins. Once you have truth, you know what to do. You can put together a plan. You can figure out the best strategy for yourself. Melissa's got a great point here. You really need to check out the company culture, and you need to do it with both eyes open.
I think that there's some resources online where employees that have worked at companies can leave reviews of their job experiences. Those are good resources to get a feel.
Absolutely something to consider and to look into. I would research wherever I needed to. Melissa says it's unlikely you'll be able to solve all of your workplace issues at once, so apply the principle of triage here. If you could solve one problem with a healthy boundary, which would carry the most weight and have the biggest impact on your health and happiness at work, start there. That is great advice. If you're in a current situation, figure out what is the one thing that you do have control over, that you could take action on, and create a boundary around that, in the sense of how does this positively impact my health and happiness? Asking yourself what boundary, if you set it at work, would truly benefit your health and happiness the most. And I'm really driving that point home. It helps weigh out what's most important.
That could even help find the perfect job too, if you have those things outlined. Melissa goes on to describe the most common workplace boundaries needed into 4 categories. Work time. These are issues around how you spend your time while you're on the clock, including the number of tasks on your plate, project management and deadlines, and how your time is valued during the workday. Personal time. This is where your work bleeds into personal time, when you're on vacation, out sick, or relaxing at home after hours. Ethical dilemmas. These are tasks, requests, or pressures that make you feel icky and compromise your integrity. Personal space and energy. These are situations in which your time, personal space, mental health, or privacy are being intruded upon in the workplace.
Melissa says to be prepared for when setting boundaries in the workplace, there's a specific type of pushback that you may receive. Here are some of the phrases that various bosses have said to her when she set a healthy work boundary. Be a team player. Oh my gosh, I've been told that too. But Elaine has kids and you don't, so I've been told different versions of that. You already said you don't have plans. Everyone is pitching in right now. Definitely have heard that. Are you saying you won't do it? Heard that.
Yes.
I thought you were a go-getter. Heard that, or a version of that. How important is this job to you? Kind of heard that. You're too sensitive.
Heard that.
Definitely heard that. Don't bring your personal issues into work. She heard that last one after she had asked for an extra 15 minutes on her lunch hour once a week to meet with her therapist. She says her boss at that time was a real peach. Ouch.
One experience that immediately comes to mind is one of the jobs that I had really did emphasize the kind of family structure that she was talking about earlier in the chapter. But the funny thing is, as soon as my own sense of self or personal participation in the dynamic started having problems, it no longer mattered, or things outside of work needed my attention, or other priorities I had. Then all of a sudden the family doesn't care and it's a burden. And I thought that that was an interesting flip.
My favorite one, I was told by a boss that I wasn't a team player. I had to laugh at this because I had taken so many hits for the team that when my boss said that to me, and I reminded her of how many hits I had taken for the team, how many sacrifices I had taken, she got angry at me. It was, to me, just a discussion. It actually led to retaliation against me. And then I had to sit down with her one-on-one and very clearly state to her about what is her definition of a team player so that I can understand. So we both were talking with the same definition. And her definition of me being a team player meant that I did absolutely everything that she wanted. And I had, but then when I started to say, well, I need something in return, similar to what you're sharing, Gabe.
Yeah.
Then I wasn't being a team player. She could never wrap her mind around the idea. She was one of these people that believed as long as you're here at work, you have to do everything we tell you to do. Any form of independent thinking or any personal need is not acceptable. Kind of leave your morals, your values, and your opinions at the door. But when we want you to have morals, values, and opinions, we're going to use that.
Exactly. It's a very, very, very conditional family.
It felt more like a cult than a job.
Yeah. Veiled threats, perhaps.
Definitely.
Indirect. This sentence, you already said you don't have plans. Also, huge assumptions going on there, right?
Well, later she says in this chapter, we all need to consider going for a walk, going to the gym, even though you're living by yourself perhaps and you're single and you're just going to go pick up Chipotle. You've got a date with yourself and Netflix and a glass of wine at the end of the day. Those are plans.
Right.
It doesn't have to be that you're going to some big event and that is a plan. Personal time is personal time. And now we jump back into the mental health of boundaries, and sometimes doing nothing is the most beneficial thing you can do for yourself, whatever
Absolutely.
that definition of nothing is.
And it's scary how quickly this energy within workplace dynamics starts bleeding into the energy of ownership, like
Oh,
power and authority they have
I just
over
got
you.
chills.
Scary feeling to be stuck in.
Melissa says it's common for management to feel like you're rocking the boat when you start setting healthy boundaries and to fight just a little to preserve the status quo. Remember, people will take as much as you are willing to give, and if you've been giving more than is right, establishing a boundary to set a new precedence may feel like you're taking something away from them. That is a tremendous piece of advice.
Right.
Which is why it's always good to start with the boundaries in the beginning, but you've got to get the lay of the land.
Oh, yeah. There could be booby traps waiting around there, depending on how and what boundaries you try to set.
It's so true. She says, you want work to be a place, whether it's remote or in person, where you can perform your best, stay motivated to succeed, retain high morale, and feel valued and respected. And the best way to make that happen is with boundaries. Even if you do set healthy boundaries at work, enforcing them is an even bigger challenge and occasionally begs the question, can you afford to lose this job? Even if you set clear professional boundaries, if you and management continue to disagree on how to handle paid time off, working hours, your workload, or reasonable self-care initiatives, your only options might be to appeal to human resources, change departments or locations, band together with coworkers to exert some pressure, or quietly start looking for a new job. Quitting isn't an option for many people, which means you may have to start asking yourself, where am I willing to compromise my boundaries just to keep my paycheck? There aren't always easy answers to this question. I applaud her for putting that in there, not
Huge.
skipping over it. This is a great truth. Not everybody can walk out on a job. This is about how can you balance out? How can you refill your cup? Sometimes that's the only option. Giving too much to a company and thinking it's going to give back to you is a very, very poor choice. It led to serious health problems for me. It's not worth your health. It's not worth your mental health. It's not worth your physical health. And it starts, in my opinion, with the mental health, and then it goes to physical health. Pay attention to these red flags for yourself, because I believe when I have a client that comes to me with severe work stress, the first thing that I talk to them about is their boss someone that they can talk to? Almost 100% of the time, they've already gone down that road by the time they're talking to me and I'm consulting with them. The next step is, after that, you go to HR. The key thing to remember about going to HR is, if you want to experience the full power of the Golden Seams, head over to our Patreon now, where you'll access our transformative deep meditation, powerful subliminal audio, and custom mandala, all designed to help you manifest the life you truly desire. So don't wait to start living authentically, and remember who you truly are.
Thank you for joining us on the Golden Seams podcast. We're truly grateful for your presence and participation in this journey of self-discovery and personal growth. Your path to authenticity and prosperity is unique, and we're honored to be a part of it. If you found value in today's episode, we invite you to like, subscribe, and share it with others who might benefit. Until next time, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your authentic light. This is Gabe and Michae signing off from the Golden Seams. May your path be golden, and may you find the strength to mend and beautify the broken parts of your life, just like the art of kintsugi.
Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.